Across the country, employers are facing workforce shortages, changing skill demands, and real questions about how to grow in a competitive economy. Here in Maine, we're not just talking about those challenges, we're exploring ideas and partnerships that will shape what comes next. I'm Dan Belyea. I lead the Harold Alphons Center for the Advancement of Maine's Workforce, a program of the Maine Community College System. And welcome to Maine Ideas. Our podcast focuses on workforce, business, innovation, and brings together leaders who share what's working and how Maine and the nation continue to grow. So let's get comfortable, stay curious, and let's explore what's possible together. Today's conversation focuses on the value of the trades, entrepreneurship, and why Maine needs to create more pathways for young people to build meaningful careers. Shawn Moody is the founder of Moody's Collision, an employee-owned Maine company that has grown from a small startup into a statewide business. He has long been a champion for workforce development, skilled trades, and education reform in Maine. In this episode, we'll talk about opportunity, the changing future of work, and why giving people real exposure to hands-on learning can strengthen Maine's workforce and communities for generations. Shawn, it is so good to talk to you this morning, and thank you for joining us on the Maine Ideas podcast.
My pleasure. It's great to see you and Heather. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Heather's. We work together on the SOAR program, and she's a dynamo. Mine's very organized and thorough and dedicated. Dan, you've got a great group around you there to help make things happen.
Yeah, thank you. We do have a great team. So, Shawn, I want to jump into some of our questions, and I have to start out with the formation and the entrepreneurial activity you started at age 17, which has become Moody's Collision. So, tell us about that.
It actually started, I was a jock as a kid. I loved sports. Grew up in Narragansett Street, so we had the Philbricks, the Quinlans, that they went on to become all-state athletes in high school. But I was a part of that neighborhood and just couldn't get enough of it. And then around 12, I think maybe 13, my mom had some mental health challenges and actually ended up institutionalized up to AMI. And so that was more of my wheels, I think, went off the wagon as well. Regrouped, got some different friends, and started working on cars. I fell in love with cars. Fortunately, it was a Corvette repair shop up the street, and I was surrounded by older, probably 10 years older than I was at that time. Muscle cars, street rods, all that stuff were real prevalent in the 70s. So I got intoxicated by all that. And I started working nights, weekends. And again, I think the education community, my teachers, Mark Eastman was the principal at that time, who went on to become a namesake in Maine's education community. And he kept me between the rails somehow, some way. And we've developed a great relationship. I worked in the co-op program as a junior, so I was able to get out of school early, get the cheap lunch, and follow my passion, and saved up enough money and built that little 3-bay shop as a junior and didn't look back. I was just fortunate. I was lucky to grow up in a supportive neighborhood community with a great group of educators, and somehow I was successful in spite of myself.
Yeah, that your story is incredible as an entrepreneur. How many Moody Collision Centers are there today?
Wow, we've grown. And it's interesting because we bought a junkyard, I think about 10 years into it. I was in my late 20s, and we turned that into one of the leading auto recyclers in the whole country. We got national recognition for environmental awards, operational excellence. We got what they call the Gold Seal Award. We sold that business in 1988 to a consolidator called LKQ Corporation, which now is a multi-billion-dollar auto recycler. They're global. But at that time, it was just a small startup, $27 million investment. So I was able to travel the country on a business improvement team, hanging around with a lot of bright people. In fact, the primary investor was a billionaire. So I was able to soak up a lot of knowledge and experience culturally. We ended up down Birmingham, Alabama, or Bakersfield, California, Hunts Point, New York. These weren't glamorous places, right? But they were hard scrabble auto recyclers, second, third generation. And again, I've always been a sponge for knowledge and how to incorporate best practices with people you just met. So that developed, I think, my personal business acumen. And after the sale and doing that business improvement stint, that's when we really started to grow Moody's in 2001. We built our second shop in Scarborough. So Moody's history really is just the last 23 or 4 years of growth. So we went from one shop in Gorham, about $1 million of revenue, 10 coworkers, to today we have 16 locations across the state. We're on track this year to do about 80 million in revenue and approaching 300 coworker owners. Those were an ESOP, a coworker owned company.
That's an incredible story.
Gone by fast.
Yeah, it's just amazing from the ground level to where you folks are today. Let me transition a little bit to some of the activities that you've been involved with. And over the years, you've served on both the Maine Community College System Board of Trustees and at the same time, the University of Maine System Board of Trustees. You've also was the party nominee for governor in 2018. So tell us how your experiences in those areas shaped your perspective around education, workforce development, and the issues facing the state of Maine.
Yeah, I think Governor LePage, who got elected in 2010 and actually ran, I didn't really run against him, but ran in that election cycle in 2010. It was very turbulent. The Tea Party had emerged. The state was in fiscal disarray, coming off a recession in the country. So difficult times. I felt compelled to step up and get some ideas, get some beliefs and things out there. I wasn't successful then in 2010 either. I was kind of a footnote, but I learned a lot, met a lot of great people, traveled the state. So in 2013, or whatever it was, Governor LePage was going to do his reelection. And no one I know now, I think of it differently. But anyway, he reached out, wanted to see if I would be interested in serving in some capacity in his administration. So I said to Governor LePage, I said, look, and again, bear in mind, I'm just proud high school alum. I said, if you can get me on the university system, the community college system boards, both of them, I really think that we could get those two systems to collaborate, work together. I'm not really from higher education, but I saw the synergies. Those two systems were competing. They're competing for students, they're competing for funding, and there wasn't really incentives or the fabric to weave those two arguably most important public assets in the state together. So I'm very proud of the work that I was one person, but we had a great board on both. And I had the great opportunity, good fortune to meet you, Dan, in that endeavor. And I got to tell you, and I know this is a public broadcast, but I'm going to talk more about individuals like yourself, Dan, and you confided in me. We developed a good personal friendship. And you had a tough life, and you turned your life around. And I really feel like you're like me in some ways, where we took adversity and we built on it and we found a path forward. And so you're a great role model for the system and the individuals that you serve, and you're in the right job, in the right capacity. So I think that my perspective is broad. It's from private sector, community. I've lived in my hometown my whole life, Chrissy and I, raising our kids, but also seeing how politics does work and doesn't work. It's become dysfunctional, but we still have private practice and education to move the state forward in spite of it all.
Thank you, Shawn. It's very kind. I respect the work that you've done, your background. We've got some similarities, and I always appreciate your guidance and mentorship. The other thing I really want to touch in about, Shawn, is the Maine Blue Collar Scholarship Fund. There has been some incredible work with the mission about removing barriers for motivated individuals and the impact of the scholarships. And I've been on the website looking at just the impact and the partners. It is absolutely amazing. And 739 scholarships, almost $1 million awarded. It's amazing. So tell us about the Maine Blue Collar Scholarship Foundation.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up, Dan. It started at the Biddeford Ice Arena. We built the shop in Biddeford back after Scarborough. I think it was our third shop. And our kids went to Gorham and they played football and sports, and they did well in school. So we'd go to the academic awards nights, and as parents do, proud individuals, they work hard. But most of the recognition was around academic achievement, which is granted. It's people work hard to get good grades and they deserve to be recognized. But there really wasn't any type of formal recognition for people going into the trades or going on to community college, for example. We did a $500 scholarship back then. The ice arena was packed, and I stood up there. I was nervous in front of all those people. But when I announced that student's name, the place lit up. The students' reaction was just, I still remember, I get goosebumps standing there thinking, wow, we're onto something here. And I think of myself at that stage of my life, it was, geez, if it was me, it would be like, Shawn's getting a scholarship. I didn't know if he's going to get a diploma or not. But that underdog kid that got recognized in front of his peers or in her peers, obviously we have a lot of ladies, young women that are going in that we recognize. So that was the genesis of it, Dan. And in 2017, I think the Risbera family came on in a big way. And my wife, Chrissy, and our daughter, Danielle, were real instrumental in taking it statewide. We're excited to be able to offer these Maine Blue Collar scholarships. If anybody would like to learn more about it, go to mainebluedollar.com. Would welcome any contributions that you could come up with. But I think the real story, Dan, is going to be at the heart of this podcast is, and I'm going to use myself as an example just because I can, but somebody that could have fallen into the system, been on assistance, whatever. My mom was in tough shape, could have found reasons to give up. So when you think about the economic impact that just one individual can make, and I'm using myself, but there's hundreds of examples across the state, the Alphon, for example, and that's where Maine's future lies. It really does. We've got to take the best and the brightest. It's not necessarily just the students that, are at risk. Oh, let's send them to vote. They're acting up in the classroom. That was that way. Any educator would tell you that. It was almost like a dumping ground. And now we've refocused and refurbished the stigma, if you will. And with the adaptation of AI, Dan, and Heather and your listeners will know, those white collar jobs that you got to go to college 20 years ago are at risk. And so now is the time. This is our now. So we're really proud to be able to say education is a big part of our success. I'll give you an example. When I built that shop, my senior year at Gorham High School, my English teacher was a fellow named Carl Perrin. Called him Doc because he had his doctoral degree, Dr. Carl Perrin. I was 17, 18 years old. And he confided in me back then. We talked shop. I was way older than my years because I was hanging around with people that 10 years older than me. So I think it was way more mature in that sense, street smart. So Doc shared with me back then he was making, I think, 30,000. And again, that's a whole nother discussion what educators get paid. But he was making around 30,000, been in education his whole life. He was probably in his 50s. That first year that I was on my own, right, sole proprietor, whatever, I earned more than Doc did. I never told anybody that. I'm publicly just saying this now. But it shows you the opportunity that young tradesmen and women have in the pathway to sole proprietor or having their own business, and the earning potential, the growth potential, and our communities need that. And we need that next generation business owners going through this community college system, and they can gravitate to business, transfer the credits. But imagine the impact that one individual can have, and I'm taking myself and Gorham here, can have over a lifetime. We don't need 100,000. You need a dozen per community to continue that tradition of giving back and growing. And we hire people that maybe are down on their luck. We become their substance use counselors. We become their mental health counselors. We become their confidants and reasons for getting up in the morning. Give them a sense of purpose to become gainfully employed and have them get ahead in life. So that small business fabric of this state, which 90% of Maine is 20 people or less businesses. That's it. That's who we are. And I want to add to that, Dan, because it's important for people to recognize. We first got involved in the community college system through Maine Quality Centers, and we got grants to give us leadership and developmental training for our up-and-coming leaders in Moody's. And that training, you take a sole proprietor like myself, and I say I grew to 5 to 7 coworkers. Now, my ability to manage or to lead, to scale that business up solely depends on my abilities and my skills and my education. A lot of us got through high school, that was it. So our formal education ended. So what the Maine Community College Centers offered, Quality Centers offered, for us to get real world college classes and curriculum and training to help us lead and scale up a growing organization. And that I'll be forever grateful for.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that call out. And I want to just say this other call out. You folks have changed the dynamic and broken the stigma about folks getting into the trades because, as you said, if you want to take one of those skilled trade programs and grow in a company, you can make really good wages with benefits, support your family, and it's also this generational change that's happening. So, thank you so much for the work that you folks have been doing. I want to pivot a little bit to your perspective as a business owner and industry leader. What do you believe are the biggest challenges facing Maine's trades today?
I want to introduce a concept. You and I, Dan, have to work together like on SOAR. We love these brainstorming, trailblazing ideas and concepts, but I want to introduce to the listeners a new concept. And I call it, okay, three-dimensional learning. We've had one-dimensional learning. Education, pre-K 12, has become very static, very institutionalized, bureaucratic, and very siloed. Just because of the sheer bureaucratic nature of any big organization. It happens in the private sector as well. I'm going to lament on this, but saying to young people, you got to go to college or you're not going to amount to anything. And that was the mantra. They did away with shop class, did away with home ec. You don't need that. You learn that at home. You got to be skilled and trained with a 4-year degree to reach your potential in that environment. And that was back in the 80s into the 90s and the 2000s. Now, with the adaptation of AI, that really took off because of COVID. Big corporate America, okay, was watching every time someone working at home pushed their mouse, hit the keyboard. Okay, they were watching and mapping and software engineering all of the work habits that were taking place during COVID. And they recognized, like, whoa, we can run our organization on 30% of our workforce because there was a percentage of those people that were milking it. They weren't working. And so with a multi-trillion really dollar investment into AI through NVIDIA and now these data storage centers that are propping up across the country, that is all driven by one component is reducing headcount. Let's face it, okay, corporate America doesn't have feelings. They're in it to make money, okay, make profits. That's it. That's the cold reality. So who's going to get caught in that are going to be the white collar earners that are making 80 to 100,000 a year, living in a subdivision, both mom and dad are working, car payments, mortgages, and things like that. What's going to happen over the next 2 to 5 years, Dan, is going to take those one-dimensional learners and displace, and they're going to have to redeploy. Now, your programs are going to be positioned to try to help them to cross-train or relearn. But I want to introduce a new concept and call it 3D learning. 3D learning, 3H learning, I would call it. 3H learning, the ability to use your head, obviously, right? In the conventional sense, academic learning, the ability to use your heart. Okay, this is the big one right here. Be able to empathize, sympathize, critical think, pull complicated operational things together and spit out conclusions and solutions and things like that. And the last is hands, okay? You've got to be able to work with your hands. I'm a faith-based person, but I believe God gave us these talents, but you have a head, a heart, and a hands. We all do. And not including those three aspects into our educational system in the future is going to put us as a huge competitive disadvantage for our new learners. A lot of the college graduates right now with 4-year degrees are not employable. They're not hiring them. They've got AI to the point where they could take some of those entry-level jobs. Same way with the retirees. They're not replacing these individuals' jobs. So we're at a real intersection here. I see it as an opportunity for people to feel the gratification of being able to build something, to design something, to learn a trade. Because once you learn a trade and you master that craft, we built our own home, the plumbing and heating and all these things. It's like an incubator of skills that come together, using your head, using your heart, using your hands. I've been that model of that work throughout my life. That's where people are missing, and that's what the next opportunity for education is, to integrate all of our faculties and senses to make ourselves employable. And we'll be the kryptonite of AI. They won't be able to replace you.
Such an interesting concept, Shawn. Thank you for sharing that. Your field is highly technical. The work that you folks are doing and AI is not going to take over the opportunities for people to repair vehicles, and maybe some of the design stuff will happen differently. But tell us about the high wage jobs that are in your organization and how they might change a bit or how they're not changing and the wages around that.
Yeah, I think Moody's is a little bit unique. There's only about, I think there's less than 100 employee-owned companies in the state of Maine right now out of 40,000. And we did it 20 something years ago based on our belief that we wanted to share equity with the people that were earning it. A lot of great ESOP companies in Maine. Actually started a Maine ESOP Association to be able to leverage all these best practices and ideas. I think, Dan, that our average wage really is driven on people's competency and experience. We track efficiencies, we track utilization. We have a very robust software management system. We have open book management we developed in the 90s. So everybody at each location knows how much we earned, what our KPIs are for that specific location. Whether they're 18 years old, they could have just started at Moody's. Give them a key to the building. We're very faith-based and trusting organization. It's not easy to work at Moody's, very demanding, high-paced, fast-paced, technical. So I see our wages have increased considerably since COVID in an effort to make sure we retain our good people and we're able to attract good people. So I'd say our entry-level wages are for somebody with skills in the $20 to $25 an hour mark. And then when you get to be what probably in the HVAC world would be like a journeyman's experience level, you're going to migrate more to the $25 to $30 an hour range. And then you get into the master craftsman or woman, and it's 30 plus a dollar an hour. And then the big thing is the overtime ability too. We have opportunities for overtime for hourly coworkers, and they work 5 to 10 hours overtime at a higher pay rate. They've been with us a while. They're in the $80,000 to $100,000 pay range. And I want to also mention that if you looked at a ratio of somebody that isn't able to fix it and repair home projects in cars or whatever, I figured like a tradesperson, dollar for dollar, they have $1.20 earning potential versus somebody that can't is like an 80 cents on the dollar because they have to hire everything, whether it's putting a porch on or changing oil, whatever they do. So their dollar doesn't go as far as somebody that actually has mastered the trades.
Yeah, and it's so important for us to continue to amplify the wages and the pathways. And you've got an incredible system at Moody's and moving people up into those entry level to journey to master. And I think the message for young people is you want these types of jobs, you can make really good money and support your family and make generational change. And we're seeing it in all the trades. And whether you want to be an electrician or HVAC technician or manufacturing technician or you name it, welder, it's just incredible the wage and then overtime opportunities for folks that are motivated and looking for some extra money. And all of those dollars roll back into the state of Maine, which supports our economy. Tell us about what concerns you most about the future of Maine's workforce, and then what gives you hope.
Yeah, I think I'm going to sound a little redundant, but I see what's shaping up with the adaptation of AI and you've seen our ads on TV that we've run. We just want to sound the alarm bell in a kind of a lighthearted way to people. We really need to start thinking about your future and job security because corporate America is not going to care about you. I'm sorry. When they come through and they do a series of layoffs, there's going to be no fair warning. I think people really need to look in the mirror. Now, I gave the commencement address at EMCC, and it's a shame that Liz passed away. She was just an incredible lady and leader up there at EMCC. Liz Russell, I want to say in her honor. It was great to have been up there. But the message then is the same message I'll say now is it's not about should you go to college, not go. Those life choices, but all opportunities need to be on the table. And I said, what's in your heart. People love you, advise you, you listen to them. But in the end, you look in the mirror in the morning, right? It's you looking back. That's it. It's your life. Young people are going to take control of their life. And they know what's in their heart. They know what they want to do. I just want to make sure that our educational system is structured in a way that they can get the exposure they need to find out, hey, I'm handy with my hands. I really like the fact I built a birdhouse or I cooked in the culinary arts, whatever. So we've got to get back to churning out well-rounded young adults out of our education system, not kids not going down one hallway where they want to or not. The peer pressure is just pushing them into it. We really got to get back to follow your passion. Well, you can do that. You're not going to hit it probably the first shot, but having those opportunities. And I would advocate to go back to re-implementing our industrial arts in some capacity in newly designed form and culinary arts back in the middle school. That's the key. You got the gumption to go do and try. Girls start to look different. Guys look, everything kind of changes at those ages. The way you look at life, you start to mature. And you start, I think they're the most formidable years. 0 to 4, arguably, walk, talk, and all that stuff. But that's where you really start to form, who you are with Dan Belyea, who you are as a person, or Shawn, or Heather. And it's just crucial that they're introduced to these other than mainstream opportunities, because I've seen it firsthand. Once that young adult crowd hits the 16, 17, 18-year-old mark, they've already segregated into who they're going to hang around with, whether it's sports or academics or whatever. And they become, whether they know it or not, they become risk averse because they don't want to take a chance. I won't look cool if I try this something different. So it really is crucial. But the main thing, Dan, honestly, is young people need the opportunities that we had, right, when we were at our age to sort out for themselves. Because if they're going down the path that they feel positive and confident about, they're going to succeed.
Well, Shawn, I want to thank you for joining us on the Maine Ideas podcast. And I also want to make this note. During your career, you didn't just keep your head down and focus on just your business. You stood up, in your leadership and your willingness to create other opportunities for other people should be celebrated. And I think Maine owes you a big debt of gratitude for all of the work outside of Moody's that you've done. So thank you so much for your time, Shawn, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Dan. And the community college system is near and dear to my heart. And it's an extraordinary opportunity because every program that you folks offer, and they are varied, are in such high demand right now. Young people getting in and getting that degree, they can write their own ticket. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And if you'd like to learn more about the Harold Alphon Center for the Advancement of Maine's Workforce, please visit mccs.me.edu. And if you'd like to learn more about today's guests, be sure to check out our show notes for links and additional resources.